Attack on Titan is unique from many shonen-style anime out there in that it gives almost each and every character their own development and vulnerabilities to become attached to. This is obviously no different within the core trio of characters that we come to know from the very beginning in Eren, Armin, and Mikasa. But beyond the flashy Mikasa and the blatant main character Eren, we have arguably the most interesting character in the entire show. Armin is the latent tactician of the group, a role that typically doesn't get much shine outside of niche moments where they can show a potential that they may have been hiding, being in the shadow of the main character like they are after all. But here there's a bit more substance to what drives Armin along, other than wanting to see the motivations of the protagonist through like most shows would operate under. Nearly every sidekick is dragged along by the show's main character, but this seems to be a different case. In this video, I'll be taking a look at Armin from Attack on Titan, and how he's a glaring example to what a shonen like it should aim for when designing a character to fit alongside the protagonist. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe, as over 98% of you who watch aren't subscribed to the channel. It's pretty easy to get sucked into the epic fight scenes or intense reveals throughout the first few seasons of Attack on Titan and forget the penultimate goal established by Eren and Armin from the very beginning: to gaze out into the glorious sea, which at the time is almost a folktale to them, being within the walls as they are. The scout situation is a bit different than your typical world that a shonen would thrust you into. These young boys and girls are trapped within walls that make them feel like penned-in farm animals. In circumstances like this, when developing motivation and finding something for the heroes of your story to accomplish, it's a bit less straightforward than some other examples that you'll see out there. Eren in the beginning follows a similar arc to that of your typical shonen protagonist. Isn't capable of much, but has a drive to overcome like no other, which eventually surfaces his latent abilities. We've all seen it before. Sure, Eren demands a large amount of screen time, and therefore we are going to get moments of this familiar push to overcome we've experienced in other shows, but to pay the most attention to these moments would be to ignore what makes Attack on Titan so special. Drawing Bleach as an example that spreads the wealth a bit in terms of allowing development in characters other than just the main protagonist, the show tended to fall flat with many of those side characters just because that's simply all we got out of their character arcs. Many of them were dealing with their own internal conflicts that, while interesting and cool, were ignoring how they interact with either the situation at hand or the world around them in many cases. In Attack on Titan, the world itself is such a mystery that while characters still progress through their own personal development arcs, it's always in relation to how that character has interpreted the gruesome world around them. And this is no exception with Armin. Many times we combine the motivations of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin into one unit, while nearly always identifying Eren at the head of the group, given his Titan abilities. Though Mikasa is blatantly there for Eren and nothing else, Armin separates himself for the viewers as he often shows just how incapable our main hero is when he takes the reins for himself in a split second and is an instant game changer. There are many crucial moments that Eren handles, and we feel that without his Titan powers, the scouts would be goners for sure. But these scenarios usually aren't executed without masterful tactician efforts from Armin, whether it's his careful planning of the takeback of Trost, or how he brilliantly conceptualized a way to deal with the anti-personnel ODM gear wielded by Kenny and his gang. Many compare Armin to his once commander Erwin, but I don't think they're alike one bit. Erwin, while masterful in his execution of commandeering the entirety of the scouts, only wishes he could navigate the labyrinth of strategy and possible outcomes that Armin does in a manner unique to his character and his alone. Armin is a nervous wreck of a character, and I believe it's the only reason why he's able to cover every possible wrong turn of a plan as he is in the first few seasons of the show. Let's let final season Armin be. He's good enough. Regardless of what he turns into as a character after the time skip stuff, it's hard to ignore the sheer amount of feats he has as the supposed sidekick to the main character. Annie isn't exposed without him. Trost isn't won back without him. And even in the final season where he gets some flack for his writing, Armin is given the entirety of the credit for the strategy in winning the Battle of Marley. Not only does Armin deserve credit for his tactician efforts towards the cause of Paradis, there are many tangible physical impacts he makes despite his unassuming disposition. Burning himself to a crisp in the sacrificial last-ditch effort to finally take care of Bertholdt, and literally blowing up the port of Marley leading to a decisive victory, it's hard to ignore him as a genuinely effective addition to the scouts. The more and more I bring up Armin's final season grit, it honestly starts to bring me around a bit to how his character arc truly tips off in these closing episodes. These two were once just boys, with dreams of seeing vibrant landscapes that they had only heard of in books. Books that Armin introduced to the series. And it makes the thought of what their adventures began as in the first place feel really hollow. These once driving factors are now mere motivation to throw fists, as the two have one of the most gripping breakdowns of a bond we've seen in other shonen. Let me know what you guys think are some similar dilemmas from series like this one in the comments. After the ending to this conflict, Armin's keen insights shine through in this egocentric encounter with an individual who has always kept him in a sort of shadow, as he vividly understands that this isn't Eren's typical decision making, and as we come to learn, this is spot on. From here on out, we can even see Armin's intent to combat Eren's motives as he transitions into a sort of 50-50 main protagonist role split between him and Mikasa, since they're the only two left who, at this point, have the insight to defeat Eren. This non-linear nature to how Attack on Titan progresses through its events allows for so many dynamic points of view on the situations at hand. Armin, who at one point participated as a simple decision maker for the group in a more backup character role, has established himself as a core piece to how the story will progress along. Drawing back to the previous comparison of Bleach, barely any of Ichigo's original friend group are still trekking alongside him, as they just weren't able to be repurposed into a more impactful role as the power scaling infected the series. You could even apply this idea to any of the characters still alive at this point in the story in Attack on Titan. Given the idea that I went over in my video concerning the Reiner and Bertholdt reveal about how the scale of the show allows for each and every scout to have a gripping and personalized story in reaction to what's going on. Typically, when watching other shonen, you have a rough idea of the outcomes yet to occur, as while there are different results to individual fights that distinguish them from others that take place, there is only so much wiggle room in relation to just how tragic the events can be, limiting the impact they'll have on the viewer. Armin and Mikasa feel so empowered in this moment, as they're more emotionally invested in this situation than they have been towards anything prior in the show. And this makes them come across as having some real influence as to what's going to happen at the end of it all. Eren pushes the story along, but Armin is what kept it on the tracks the entire time. And I think his character deserves some more appreciation for that. If you enjoyed this video, please check out the rest of my channel, and consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it really helps me out. Thank you.